Today I want to show you something that almost no one talks about. Something that flips the entire flood story back into its original covenant architecture. Most people picture the flood as 8 people floating on a boat and the entire human race wiped out in one global instant. But that is not what the text actually is tracking. Scripture is not mapping biological humanity. Scripture is mapping covenant humanity. So listen carefully. Genesis is not concerned with how many humans existed on the planet. Genesis is concerned with one thing: the survival of the covenant line. That's why you have a distinction between Adam and the Adam, man and covenant man, the man. And when the text says that all flesh was destroyed, it is speaking inside the worldview of the narrator. It is the collapse of the world that matters for the covenant story, not the census of every mountain tribe on earth. So here's the real shock. The world after the flood still carries pre-flood knowledge. The mathematics, the astronomy, the architectural pulses, the sacred geometry, the time cycles that appear in Sumer, Egypt, China, Mesoamerica, and indigenous star lore. So ask yourself, how did all of that survive if only 8 people walked off the ark? How do cultures separated by oceans have the same flood memory? And why do calendars match the same cosmic cycles? Why does Egypt stand up fully formed almost instantly? It's because Scripture is not saying that the whole human genome resets to 8. It's saying that the covenant line resets to 8. Noah and his family were the only covenant carriers, the only preserved lineage through which the architecture of Yahuwah would reemerge. They preserved the meaning system, the morals, the creation order, the timekeeping, the clean and unclean patterns, the sacrifice logic. The flood cleans the covenant story, not the entire planet. And Babel finishes what the flood began. Before Babel, humanity still shared the ancient meaning system. One language, one cosmology, one architectural worldview. Babel is the real fracture point. This is where Yahuwah shatters the unified meaning grid. This is where languages split. This is where civilizations diverge. And this is where the surviving fragments of pre-flood knowledge scatter across Earth. Noah carries the covenant memory. Other groups carry fragments of the architectural system. Egypt preserves geometry. Sumer preserves kingship cosmology. China preserves time cycles. Mesoamerica preserves pulse mathematics. And the covenant line remains the only one position for Genesis 15 where the full architecture comes back online. This is why the world after the flood looks strangely similar to the world before it. The memory survived, the covenant did not. Noah and his family are not the only humans on earth. They are the only humans inside the covenant story. And that is what Scripture cares about. Covenant lineage is the spine of the narrative, not global population. That single shift unlocks the entire covenant architecture. You cannot understand Adam, Noah, Abraham, Babel, Egypt, or the plagues until you see the difference between humanity and covenant humanity. This is the architecture that you were never shown, but once you see it, you cannot unsee it. So make sure you hit the like, follow, and share button and watch what's coming next.